This is a quick talk through about the portfolio management standard as per the third edition of PMI that was released in 2013, and how I saw it could overlay to the PMO certified practitioner standard that is more recent and has this more modern concept of the flywheel. When I studied for both of those standards, I came to this conclusion. I came to this realization that both standards keep on pointing out, making a point of that projects and programs and so have a start and end date where they have to deliver their value, whereas PMOs evolve to get kicked off and then go through iterations of improvement cycles, continuous improvement cycles. And with portfolios as well, you kind of have your initial start of a portfolio, and then with that the idea is to make strategic alignments of a portfolio, and or just you optimize and adjust if it's just minor changes, but then it's just this continuous improvement cycle. But before I would want to overlay that, let's talk about portfolio management process groups. So in those process groups, we have to think about define, align, authorize, and control. So these are the core process groups. And there you start with the strategy plan, where you take inventory of control and get a high-level prioritization and overview of what's actually going on and how this aligns to the mission and vision. From there, you then create the portfolio charter and do your other tools and techniques to assess all of this. But in the end, it's a charter which defines your goals and know when they are achieved and authorizes to act upon them. And you also create this roadmap in conclusion with that in order to do the more prioritizations and timeline assessments of what can be done with the strategy. Now, once you have those authorization, then you go into the governance group where you apply this portfolio management plan and you create those documents on who is responsible, accountable, and all of these things, and how is the plan to actually execute on this strategy. And you also define the portfolio in terms of certain categories, like hey, this sub-portfolio component of the program or projects is it a compliance topic? Is it a revenue growth topic? And how this aligns to the strategy. Now, once you have done all of this, then you create the performance management plan where you do manage the supply and demand and the value, the communication management plan, where then afterwards actively manage the information, and a risk management plan where you have to manage the risk. Now, with these sub documents being merged back up into this portfolio management plan, you work about authorization from the portfolio governance board, and then you keep on providing oversight. And as part of this oversight, you might have to optimize and go into this improvement cycle and improvement loop. And if it's a very big strategic change, then you go one level and one layer back up in the alignment process. You manage the strategic change, you make a stakeholder gap analysis and readiness assessments, and then once you have this reapproved in the charter, then you go back into the portfolio management plan and optimize, get it authorized. And as you can see, it starts to repeat itself as part of a kind of like this yin-yang between strategy, governance. And so this aggregates into a balancing game and a repetitive cycle that, as with the PMO flywheel that you can see on the right as part of the more modern PMO standard, very customized in the center. Let's talk about this from a portfolio management perspective, from the outside to the inside. Same as with the PMO, we have those same outside environment factors with organization, strategy, structure, specific requirements, culture, and maturity. I mean, with portfolio, it's all about the portfolio strategy, how this aligns to the organizational strategy. You create a strategic plan, and then it comes into this repetitive loop through define, authorize, control, and align. Remember, these are the core process groups that we just talked through that kind of work on this strategy and portfolio management balance in the center of it. And just like with a PMO, you have exploration, where you take your inventory, or you realign and reevaluate your inventory every second or third iteration of the portfolio. Then you design it, where you create your roadmap, your charter, and get your management plan, and go into the implementation period and start aligning and optimize, where it's about oversight and realization. Just like with the PMO, you still need to kind of like show to your shareholders about the value that the portfolio has generated. So it's not enough just to create the value, you need also create the realization around it. So now, how would this work from a step-by-step guide? You do the inventory assessment. This is even before the strategic plan, where you just get a general overview of what is the standard before you, what is available and what's there on project and programs before you kick off for the first time, while you reevaluate once again to a second or third iteration, and how this all relates to the organizational structure and industry specific requirements and so on. Has something changed? And how do we have to align this? Then you create your strategic alignment plan as part of the strategy plan, portfolio strategy management plan. So you make a strategic alignment analysis, high-level prioritization, and once you got this, you create your portfolio chart and portfolio roadmap and try to get this authorized before you then go into continue to develop your first management plan. And you define the portfolio, you categorize it, and you create the sub-portfolio, and or you could also create your portfolio plans in terms of like risk, communication, performance. Then you go to implement, you manage the risk, you manage the performance. So this is where we are in the aligning group. And then we provide oversight, elicit authorization to continue with our work in alignment with who is responsible, accountable with the project governance board, and as a portfolio manager, you just you steer it towards the value, but the decision is with those key stakeholders, and you keep executing and monitoring. You communicate with your sub-portfolio sponsors, you communicate with your program sponsors, program managers, project managers, if it's like projects on a higher level, portfolio level. You optimize and realignment, there are project cuts, minor changes, you do this through the change management as per the management plan, then larger changes, you go into this optimization of portfolio process group, where there are a couple more tools and techniques available. And if it's a massive strategic change, you might have to go out of the governance back into the strategic layer, reassess, make a stakeholder analysis, gap analysis, and readiness assessment before you get your charter approved, and then go back into the management plan to continue the cycle of the flywheel. So then you are already going towards benefit delivery and benefits recognition. So this is the same as in the PMO standard in terms of benefit recognition, and then you kind of like focus again. So in terms of the PMO flywheel, you have the customer in the center, but a portfolio serves to maximize the revenue within the tolerated organizational risk level as defined in the strategy. So hence, I would argue there would be it's the portfolio management, and the portfolio manager has the organizational mission and vision as defined by the organization and authorized by the stakeholders, whereas the PMO serves the entire organization, the project management organization, from portfolio management stakeholders to project managers and program managers. So hence it's a customer centric, because the PMO flywheel is looking inside the company towards this project, portfolio, and program managers, and the stakeholders aligned with that, whereas the portfolio flywheel is focusing on the mission, vision, and strategy, and implementation of the strategy as defined developed by the method of the PMO, if a PMO is available. And so hence this is how this 2013 standard from the portfolio management could be more modernized and overlaid into just like we have seen it with the portfolio with the PMO flywheel.